Basically, film fans have been putting together like their 5 movies that they believe are just perfect, that they believe are like 5 perfect movies. And director James Gunn has decided to take part in this, and a part of that list was Back to the Future, and people had some issue with that because some believe that Back to the Future isn't a perfect movie. It's your opinion, so it's what it is. And they start talking about some of the plot holes that the film has had, and the big one has always been, at least in the past couple decades, is that basically when the big plot hole is that when Marty comes back from 1955, why don't his parents remember him from when they were in high school? Now, James Gunn was obviously on the side that's not really that wasn't really a mistake, that they probably just don't remember him and stuff. And then Chris Pratt joined in and he went on James Gunn's side. And the screenwriter of the film, I believe I'm forgetting, Bob Gale, the screenwriter of the film, has ended the debate when he came out on Twitter and said this: a perfect film can be different from a favorite movie or a great film. A perfect film is something that, oh wait, no, that's James Gunn's quote. Sorry, excuse me. It was when he said this. This is what he said. I was reading the wrong quote. Here we go. He said, bear in mind that George and Lorraine only knew Marty/Calvin for 8 days. When they were 17 and they did not even see him every one of those 8 days. So many years later, they still remember that interesting kid who got them together on their first date. He then continued by saying, but I would ask anyone to think back on their own high school days and ask themselves how they remember a kid who might have been at their school for even a semester, or someone you went out with just one time. If you had no photo reference, after 25 years, you'd probably just have a hazy recollection. Now, as you guys know, or maybe not know, Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies of all time. Okay, I absolutely adore Back to the Future. I just love it. It's Back to the Future. It's amazing. Now, I kind of agree with the screenwriter. I mean, because I think it makes sense, because even if Lorraine and George were to even remember Calvin, at least somewhat remember Calvin, I highly doubt they would even connect the dots and be like, what if Marty used a time machine to go back in time and make us fall in love and do all of that? I highly doubt that would happen. I just think Lorraine and George would just be like, hey, you know what, Marty? You look a lot like a kid we knew back in high school. Like that's I think that's what I think would happen. I highly doubt that they would connect the dots and do all that. So I agree with the screenwriter. I think it makes sense, but I've never been one to really dig into plot holes, especially with Back to the Future. I just enjoy the movie. I'm not one to look into plot holes. I mean, there are times when I do, but most of the time I just don't really care for them. But yeah, that's it for Back to the Future.